Cultivating Self-Compassion, Working with Uncertainty and Anxiety. The last several lessons have focused on building awareness of our habits, thoughts, and emotions so that we can notice what shows up within us when we face challenges. In the next two lessons, we'll be extending our practice by learning about how to not only notice the discomfort, but also how to work with them compassionately. Compassion is the capacity to respond to difficulty, our own and others, with kindness, empathy, and understanding. It arises from accepting our humanity and acknowledging that we are forever in the process of growing and learning. In the next two lessons, we'll be focusing on common challenges we face in our life and how to work with them with compassion. This lesson will be focusing on the challenge of uncertainty and how we might work with this compassionately. So let's start by sharing possible scenarios in your life. You are in class and you don't understand something, so you want to ask your teacher. You want to put your hand up to ask, but you hold back and you timidly oscillate your hand up and down. But the movement is so small that your teacher doesn't see you. You're thinking, what if everyone gets it except for me? What if my question is stupid and everyone thinks I'm stupid? Or how about this? You really like someone, but you don't know what they think of you. You keep thinking about this person and you want to ask them to an upcoming dance, but it's so hard to make the move. What if they say no and I find out that they don't like me back? Or how about this? You want to try out for a school play, but you have never done anything like this before. You have had theater classes in school, but have never felt confident in them and you don't know if you're good at it. What if I make a fool of myself at the tryout? What if I don't get selected and everyone finds out? Does any of these scenarios sound familiar to you? These scenarios feel uneasy mainly because you don't know what the outcome will be, right? These are examples of things in your life that you don't know what the outcomes will be, but are there things in your life that you can reliably know will happen? Perhaps there are some things that are built into your routine. For example, you probably know what you will have for breakfast tomorrow, what bus you will take to go to school, and what classes you'll be sitting in tomorrow. But what if I were to ask, will you go to university? Will you get accepted to the universities that you want? What will you study? What jobs will you have? Will you be successful in your career? Will you make enough money? Will you change your career path? And how many times? Where will you live? Will you find someone that you love? Will you marry? Will you be happy in your marriage? Will you have children? Or will you stay healthy? So, what emotions are coming up for you when I ask these questions? If I keep asking you questions like these, you might find yourself feeling frustrated and maybe anxious because your answers to many of these questions will be, I don't know. Now, life is uncertain, and when we face uncertainty, we often feel anxious. What if you knew 100% if the person you ask out on a date will say yes? Or you will 100% make it to the play that you try out for? That you will 100% get into your dream university? That will feel quite nice, right? You feel secure and safe. But the reality is that you don't know and you don't have control over the outcomes. So anxiety shows up. This feeling of discomfort shows up because your need for security, clarity, and safety are not met. So what do? We worry. Worrying is a strategy we implement in order to manage uncertainty. When we worry, we ask ourselves, what if? And think of things that we're afraid would happen. So what are some worries in your life currently that pertain to uncertainty? Or what if I'm rejected? What if I fail? What if I'm judged negatively? What if I waste my time? What if no one cares about what I have to say? But the truth is, however much we worry, or even if we worry in the right way, safety is never fully achieved. Life continues to be uncertain. So, what do we tend to do when the anxiety of unknown becomes too overwhelming or when we're just plain afraid to step out of our comfort zone? We typically react in one of four ways. The first way is full-on avoidance. We just don't do it so we don't have to face the anxiety associated with uncertainty. So for example, famous classical composer Frédéric Chopin was so uncomfortable performing in public that he turned down countless opportunities, performing only 40 or so times in public in his 30-year career. Our second way is do the task but part way. We are afraid to face the spectacular failure that might result from giving your whole heart and effort into something. So, for example, you might go to a networking party, but you don't talk to anyone new. Or rather than giving us a motivational speech to employees, you decide to send an inspirational message via Facebook. The third way is procrastinate, which is avoiding tasks outside of our comfort zone by delaying to do them. To give an example, Bill Clinton was a chronic procrastinator and would wait weeks before commenting on drafts of speeches until the very last minute. The fourth way is pass the buck. Get someone else to perform a task that you should be doing. So, for example, you could get someone else to give a speech or fire someone. Now, this way, if something goes wrong as a result, it's not your responsibility. Does any of these behaviors look familiar to you? We resort to these behaviors because we feel anxious. Anxiety is a feeling that shows up to try to keep you safe and contained in your comfort zone. So, what do we need to garner to be able to overcome this feeling and step out of our comfort zone? We need courage. Courage is about choosing to show up for things you care about, even in moments of uncertainty, even when you don't have control over the outcomes. Now, courage is especially important if you're delving into an uncharted territory. Think of people like Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, or Greta Thunberg who have had to act to break new or uncommon ground to bring about something they truly believed in. The future for people breaking new ground is very uncertain, and they'll be surrounded by people who would judge them to be crazy or would judge that what they're working on will never work because they have never seen anything like it. These are times when courage is critical. There's a famous quote by Theodore Roosevelt. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. Courage requires that you're willing to let yourself be seen. It requires that you take responsibility for your own actions, even if what you do don't work out the way you expect them to. It requires that you can meet the things that don't work out the way you expect them to with openness. Now, even if you may not be in a position to break new ground, garnering courage to step out of the comfort zone and step into the realm of uncertainty would be difficult, if not impossible, if the stake of failure is too high. To make taking the leap into the unknown a little bit more manageable, it's useful to break down what you're about to do into stages or parts and take the first step. And what's even more useful is to think of this first step as a prototype. When you're prototyping, it's like thinking of each step as an experiment. If you have conducted science experiments in the past, you would know that sometimes experiments don't work out the way you expect them to or the way you wish them to. But whatever result you get in an experiment, it tells you something about what you can do differently in the future. Oftentimes, it's difficult for us to step out of the comfort zone because we're afraid for our actions to be failures. But what if we didn't treat the results of our prototype as either failure or success, but simply as information? The information tells us what other paths and methods we can try out to achieve what we hope to happen. If we pay close attention to the information and flexibly adjust our ways, then step by step, we can pave the path to move forward, even though each step is uncertain. The only influence we have on the future is how well we tend to the present. When we set goals to delve into the unknown, it helps to break down the goals into different levels. At the bottom of the hierarchy are our most concrete and specific goals, like I will finish the email I started yesterday or I will practice public speaking. The higher the goal is in the hierarchy, the more abstract, general, but important it is. It's like your life compass. So, for example, perhaps one of the top level goals you might have is to serve the world by advancing the field of medicine. This might come about with a mid level goal to first get into the field of medicine and get into cancer research. Then perhaps some prototypes to get to the mid level goal might be to get tutoring in science, go to a medical summer program, or apply for a grant to do a personal scientific research. Then you might find out that one of them doesn't work out and you didn't get a grant to do research. Then you can simply take that as information and apply for another grant or change paths to do more reading to find out the kinds of scientific research that are being done in the cancer field currently to inform you of what is a hot topic in the research field. Now, giving up on lower level goal is not only forgivable, it's sometimes absolutely necessary. You should give up when one lower level goal can be swapped for another that is more feasible. It also makes sense to switch your path when a different lower level goal, a different means to the same end, is just more efficient or more fun. On any long journey, detours are to be expected. It's important to not get hung up on a failed experiment or a rejected grant application since a new path forward can be carved. However, the higher level the goal, the more it makes sense to be stubborn. So, all life is an experiment. The more experiments you make, the better. This is because with more experiments, we can get the information quickly to align our actions to how we wish to be, even in moments of uncertainty. Worrying, procrastinating, and avoiding will not do that. So, how specifically can we take actions? These are the tips from IDEO on how to navigate ambiguity. IDEO is a global consulting company that actively uses the method of design thinking in their work. So, when we face a moment of uncertainty, first, become self aware. Take a pause so you can feel anxiety showing up. And ask yourself, am I feeling tightness in my chest or am I in a survival mode? Then, second, name the ambiguity. Actually own up to what you're afraid of as you step into the unknown. And third, get curious. When we get anxious, then our mind often goes to the what ifs in terms of what could go wrong. Instead of focusing on the things that could go wrong, imagine what ifs in terms of what could go right. And fourth, try. Prototype and experiment. Treat any result as information. I follow these steps when I have moments of uncertainty and self-doubt as I build this blog. As I spend hours on each of the video I'm creating for the blog, sometimes I get unsure if this will even be worth it, if anyone will watch it and feel anxious and makes me want to give up. Then I name what I'm afraid of, which is I'm afraid that no one will care about what I want to share with the world. But then I shift my mindset to what ifs in terms of what if my blog is useful to some people, even if it's a handful? What if this does give opportunities to spread education of the heart to more schools? With the shift in the mindset, I garner the courage to work on yet another video. When I can break down the big expectation like influencing hundreds and thousands of people, which seems too big and overwhelming, to serving a handful of people and treating each blog posting or video as prototypes that I will adjust with the feedback that I get, then it makes it easier for me to take the next step and delve into the unknown. I want to read you a poem, and it's called The Road Not Taken. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for the passing there, had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I should be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a road, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Now, you have probably read this poem in the past. We usually assume that one road is the right way and one road is the wrong way. And if we just think hard enough, we'll figure out which is which. But is this true? How many times do we truly come to a fork in a road that is truly an important fork? And can we always know which is the right path? In fact, any path that you pave is the right path because each step you're taking is informing you and leading you more to the direction you wish to go or helping you shift your direction in a way that is a better match for you. So while some choices in your path forward can seem scary at times, you don't need to treat it as something that will destroy your life if you were to take a wrong turn, because there is no such thing. In summary, when we face uncertainty, we experience anxiety, and sometimes this feeling can prevent us from stepping out of our comfort zone and paving a path that we wish to create. In order to garner courage to take a step into the unknown, it's useful to break down a big goal, consider each step as a prototype, and use the information we gather from the experiment to fine-tune or change the direction of the path, to gradually get closer to the heart of how we wish to be. This is our initial practice of self-compassion in times of difficulty as we openly accept any hiccups and discomfort that may appear in terms of stepping out of our comfort zone and not treating the result that shows up as a paralyzing failure on our part. We are thereby learning to respond to difficulty with kindness, empathy, and understanding. Now, in the next clip, we will be exploring how to further practice self-compassion in times of challenges.